Hello, class. Now reached the book of Habakkuk, the free-thinking prophet, who asked why. Here's the timeline. We see, let me get my little marker. I keep doing that, don't I? Here we go. Habakkuk was right here, begins his prophetic ministry in 607 BC, and just very soon after that Nebuchadnezzar comes and takes, he's victorious at Carchemish, and after he leaves there, defeating the Egyptians, he comes going back to Babylon, and he conquers and takes his first deportation of Jews the same year, and he goes a second time back, and the third time he conquers Judah in 586. So he had three different invasions and deportations of people. But that's when Habakkuk predicted these things would happen right before they happened, actually. The author here, his name is Habakkuk, means embracer because of his love for God. Habakkuk designates himself as a prophet. He does not include a genealogical background. Haggai and Zechariah are the only other writing prophets who designate themselves as prophets. And they were post-exilic prophets. Habakkuk was right there a couple of years before the Babylonian exile. Haggai may be a Levite, according to verse 19 of chapter 3. He writes, "To the chief musician with my string instrument," so may indicate he was a Levite. So let's look at the date now. Habakkuk prophesied during the reign of Jehoiakim of Judah, dating it around 609 to 597 BC. Jehoiakim's record is provided in 2 Kings 23 with a summation statement about Jehoiakim. In 2 Kings 23:37 we read, "And he did evil," talking about Jehoiakim, "in the sight of the Lord according to all that his fathers had done." So basically all the previous kings, not all of them, but many of them did not do as their father David. We know Josiah was one, and Hezekiah, but not many in Judah. There were some good kings, though. Habakkuk prophesied prior to Nebuchadnezzar's first invasion, which places the book around 607 BC. Dr. Bowen, again, we use a lot of his notes. He taught this course many times in his career here as a professor. He dates the book during the reigns of either Manasseh. He said dating the books during the reigns of either Manasseh, Ammon, or Josiah does not fit the verses 5 through 11 in chapter 1. Dr. Howard Voss labels Habakkuk the free-thinking prophet because he had the audacity to ask, why? Why, Lord? The book presents a picture of a man who trusted God yet was perplexed. Two questions were asked in Habakkuk in this book, and God replies to both of those inquiries. The two questions are, why did God punish Judah? Because of her sins. And we see that in the first 11 verses of chapter 1. And then following those verses, he asked another question. Why would a holy God use a people more sinful than his own people, Judah, to punish Judah? And here we look at this chart and this slide of 7th century prophets, and we can see the timeline across the top here, 650 BC and going down to 550 BC, so for 100 years. We can give different other kings that were during that reign. Ashurbanipal was from 650 to around 630. Figurehead Assyrian kings from 630 to about 605 it looks like. And then we see Nebuchadnezzar became a power 605 and going forward. So you see, for who were kings during that time, we see prophets. Nahum was a prophet back when Ashurbanipal was the leader of the Assyrian. Zephaniah after him. We see Jeremiah was a prophet here during after in those reigns. He right before Nebuchadnezzar and after and during the captivities. So Jeremiah predicted, and then saw it happen. In fact, he wrote Lamentations after Nebuchadnezzar destroyed Jerusalem in 586. Right in here, and he was writing about and wrote the book of Lamentations, and he wrote the prophet book that's named after himself. Daniel, he lived here, but he was taken into captivity around one of these first around probably 605. He was taken captive, one of the first ones. Habakkuk was prophesying here, 607. Ezekiel was a prophet. Daniel was a prophet out of the land, and so was Ezekiel, because they were taken captive back to Babylon and prophesied in Babylon to the Jews. The theme and outline and structure of the book of Habakkuk. The theme verse is in chapter 2, verse 4. The just shall live by faith. By faith. This verse is quoted by Paul in Romans 1:17 and in Galatians 3:11. True moral integrity is rooted in a genuine faith in the right person and not in many religious trappings. For Habakkuk, it was having faith in God's timetable. And so Habakkuk was a little impatient. Want to know why God wouldn't judge the evil in amongst his own people. And then he was again curious, why would you use somebody worse than we are to judge us? But he did. So let's look at it. Habakkuk was commissioned to announce the Lord's intention to punish Judah by the coming deportation into captivity into Babylon. Here's the structure. Habakkuk 1, the first dialogue with God. Habakkuk 2, the second dialogue. Habakkuk 3, the praise for God's answer. The outline, Habakkuk, according to the notes we have from Dr. Bowman. The first dialogue in chapter 1, the prophet's complaining about, why would you allow evil? Won't you do something about it? Evil, Jehovah's reply to him. After that, the second dialogue with the Lord, and the prophet asked him again, why would you, after Jehovah's reply about a people more evil, the Babylonians, to judge them, he says, why them? And Jehovah answers him again, and the prophet's prayer and praise in chapter 3. We see his prayer, his praise, and he has a peace about it at this point, after God answered his questions. And so let's look at some important passages in Habakkuk. It's not a long book, only, I believe, 3 chapters. So let's see here. Habakkuk asked God, why does he allow evil to continue in Judah and not judge it? And so I know I got ahead of myself. I want you to read the verses, though. Verse 1, the oracle which Habakkuk the prophet saw. How long, O Lord, will I call for help? Habakkuk says, and you will not hear. I cry out to you, violence, yet you do not save. Why do you make me see iniquity and cause me to look on wickedness? Yes, destruction and violence are before me. Strife exists and contention arises. Therefore the law is ignored. That means the Mosaic law. And justice is never upheld. For the wicked surround the righteous. Therefore justice comes out perverted. So he describes the condition in Jerusalem and in Judah in his day. And he says, I cry out, won't you do something about it? In these first 4 verses. And God responds in verse 5, look among the nations. He means the Gentiles. Observe. Look, observe, Habakkuk. Be astonished, wonder, because I'm doing something in your days. In your day. Yeah, only in a couple of days after, a couple of years after this did it really happen. You would not believe it if you were told. For behold, I am raising up the Chaldeans, the Babylonians, that fierce and impetuous people who march throughout the earth to seize dwelling places which are not theirs. They are dreaded and feared. Their justice and authority originate within themselves. Their horses are swifter than leopards and keener than wolves in the evening. Their horsemen come galloping. Their horsemen come from afar. They fly like an eagle, swooping down to devour. All of them come for violence. Their horde of faces moves forward. They collect captives like sand. They mock at kings, and rulers are a laughing matter to them. They laugh at every fortress and heap up rubble to capture it. Then they will sweep through like the wind and pass on, but they will be held guilty, they whose strength is their God. And we got that in little g, which is their idol. So here we see God's response. He's going to use the Babylonians to come and judge them. And here I think is our last slide, but let's look at these verses. They're very important. Habakkuk asked God, why will he use wicked people to judge Judah? Verse 12 reads, are you not from everlasting, O Lord, my God, my Holy One? We will not die. You, O Lord, have appointed them to judge, and you, O Rock, have established them to correct. Your eyes are too pure to approve evil, and you cannot look on wickedness with favor. Why did you look with favor on those who deal treacherously? Why are you silent when the wicked swallow up those more righteous than they? Why have you made men like the fish of the sea, like creeping things without a ruler over them? The Chaldeans bring all of them up with a hook, drag them away with their net, and gather them together in their fishing net. Therefore they rejoice and are glad. Therefore they offer a sacrifice to their net and burn incense to their fishing net, because through these things they catch is large. Through these things their catch is large, their food is plentiful. Will they therefore empty their net and continually slay nations without sparing? I will stand on my guard, says Habakkuk, and station myself on the rampart, and I will keep watch to see what the Lord will say, respond to me, and how I may reply when I am reproved of God. And we see God's response, and after that in verse 2, chapter 2, verse 2 through 20. The Lord pronounced woes against 5 different classes of evildoers in these verses. These woes are not pronounced against the Babylonians only, but against Israelites who practice these things. So here we have God responding to Habakkuk. He's going to judge them with the Chaldeans, the Babylonians, but he's also eventually will also pronounce judgments against the Babylonians too. So God's going to judge all these that are evil. So that's his answer. And so Habakkuk goes and waits for God's answer after we see verses 12 through chapter 2, verse 1. And so that's the end of Habakkuk. It tells us what God predicts, that the Babylonians are going to conquer and judge his people and take them captive.